Hello and welcome back, everybody. So today we're just going to be talking about some of the things that I recently finished and what I'm working on right now. So let's go ahead and let's just jump right on into it. So the first, let's see. So the first one I want to talk about that I finished is "The Skin Was Once Mine and Other Disturbances" by Eric LaRocca, not Aaron. Apologies. And this is a collection of 4 short stories that are on the horror side, and ultimately it was okay. It was all right. The very first story, which is called "The Skin Was Once Mine," is in my opinion the best one out of the whole set, and it had the most like horror type elements going on to it, but it also had some moments where I was kind of like, so we figured out our father was doing that and we decided to do it as well because we don't want to view our father as a monster? I don't know. It was kind of weird. I don't really know what to take away from it. It definitely was giving vibes that potentially our main character in the short story, might have been sexually abused by her father, but it's never actually like stated, but it definitely gave those vibes. So the fact that she ends up mimicking the things her father does, you're just kind of like, what? Definitely an interesting, strange little story. The one after that, Seedling, it was fine. It was grotesque in a way where I was just kind of like, I don't like that. But it also had like a lot of the stories, the first 2 stories, and the third one actually too, had like this really weird sexual undertone to it. Like, I really genuinely don't understand the connection between sexual undertones and horror. I don't understand the connection between those two. I really don't. Because I've just noticed that a lot of horror tends to have sexual elements in it. So I don't really know like what that connection is and why that's about, but it's there in a lot of horror. So yeah, the third one, again, I actually, this one was probably my least favorite out of the whole set. That one is called "All the Parts of You That Won't Easily Burn." I didn't like it. The setup for it took forever. Honestly, for like being a short story, it made it feel like it was almost a novel length. That's how slow moving it was, and I just didn't find the idea interesting. And then that one had the most sexual undertones in it, and I was just kind of like, bro, like, I don't even care. I just want to know, like, what the scary part, like what's supposed to be the horror aspect of this story, and I really couldn't figure out what it was for that one. And then the last one was Prickle, and it was about 2 old men playing cruel games on people, and that one I was just like, okay. One of them was just psycho in the end, and you're just kind of like, okay. So it was an okay collection. It wasn't anything to like come away from. Like I said, the best one in my opinion was the first one. So it's not something that I would be like, oh, I gotta go rush out and read more by this author. It's one of those kind of things where, like, if I see the library and they have another one, because I know he has another collection of short stories, then I might consider picking it up. But it's not something that I'm gonna like rush out and put on hold to read. So it was all right. Then I read The Last Kids on Earth and the Zombie Parade by Max Brailer. This is book 2 in the Last Kids on Earth series, and I'm loving this series. It's a middle grade series. I'm getting it through the library. I'm not buying more, but I'm loving it. It's done in the same style as Diary of a Wimpy Kid, so there's a lot of art and, a lot of like comic. It's like a combination of comic and novel, and it makes it more enjoyable. They read really, really quickly, but this one, Jack faces the dilemma of, in the first book, you find out he was an orphan who bounced around from foster home to foster home, and then all of a sudden the apocalypse hit, and now it's just him left on the earth. And then he slowly finds a couple of his friends, a bully who becomes his friend, and in this book he faces the fact that like he's afraid of losing these friends. He's afraid of something happening to them and losing them permanently, like them dying or something, because they're fighting off these monsters that also appeared when this apocalypse happened. And so he spends a lot of the book, trying to like be like that lone warrior. I'm the hero, you guys stay, that kind of stuff. And the friends are like, bro, we can help, like, we can take care of ourselves. but he won't have like that conversation with his friends and everything. And so he spends like kind of like the whole book battling that. And it's a very real thing for, you know, a 12-year-old kid who's bounced around from home to home, who finally feels like he has a home in the apocalypse with his friends to go through. And so it was kind of interesting seeing him go through that. And then the enemy who ended up like the person who became the villain, it was kind of, I was kind of sad about it because I liked the character. I was like, hey, like I like this new character. No, we don't. But overall, it's a lot of fun. I have books 2 and 3 waiting at the library, so when I return this one, I'll be able to pick up those 2. Just having a lot of fun with that series in general. And then after that, I finally was able to get to book 4 in the Warden. It's The Warden and the Wolf King, the 4th book in the Wingfeather saga by Andrew Peterson. I finished. This one took a little bit longer. It's a little bit thicker, but also I was just... If you guys have been seeing my updates on this series, I have not been liking it. And this is the one I like the least because I did not like how this ended at all. I just... I don't agree with how it ended. So I'm going to talk a little spoilery just so that I can explain like what I didn't like about it. So if you don't want to hear about it, you're more than welcome to skip past at this point. But it is going to be spoilery. I did not like the fact that a child had to sacrifice, meaning die, to fix everybody. Didn't like that. Did not like that. I did not like that this so-called maker, their version of God, said, hey, you as a child, you need to die so that everybody else can be better. Didn't like that at all. Wasn't happy about that. I felt like that was just not okay. Like if you're gonna have this ultra being in the sky or whatever, and his plan is a child has to die so everything could be okay, not my kind of thing to believe in. Sorry, don't like it at all. I would have been more happy if like the maker made himself present and was like, hey, I'll fix everything. But instead, his whole idea was, you as a child can die to fix everything. Didn't like it. And then there was also this whole, only this particular character is allowed to talk to the maker, and the main character is upset about that. And then he gets upset about that, you know, being told that he can't commune and talk to the maker and stuff like this. And then he's like, oh, I'm being selfish thinking this way. It's not selfish. It's not. It was such a weird message. Like, Janner spends the whole book like second guessing his belief in the maker and everything, and questioning like, why are all these bad things happening? Like, why isn't the maker doing something to step into it and stuff? But then he also turns around and is like, no, I shouldn't think that way. I shouldn't act that way. And then when he found out that he wasn't allowed to like talk and commune with the maker, he was upset about that. But then he also turned around and was like, oh, but I shouldn't think that way because it's such a selfish way to think. And I'm like, it's not selfish to be upset that you can't talk to and commune with like the person that everyone is supposed to believe in. Like, it's not a selfish thing to be upset that you're not allowed to. Like, you're allowed to be upset about that, because I'd be upset about that too. Like, it was just weird, and I didn't like that. I didn't get that. I didn't like this whole, you're not in a good enough position to be allowed to speak to the maker. I didn't like that at all. So, yeah, the only positive thing that came out of this book was Lily got way more attention, finally. It only took 4 freaking books, okay? And then Poto died. And as you guys know, since book 1, I have hated that man. I have genuinely hated their grandfather. He was a horrible person. Those are the only 2 positives that came out of this book, but ultimately did not like it. Out of this set, the only thing I have left is the short story collection, and it's honestly because of how this ended and because of the issues I have with it, I'm very much leaning towards not even wanting to bother with it, to be quite honest. I own it, because I own this whole set, because, you know, I bought it a couple years back and everything, and I'm very much playing with the idea of just not bothering reading that short story collection, because I genuinely do not like how this ended. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. We'll see. I still have the audiobook for that one on hold, and depending on how quickly it comes in, we'll see. I don't know. So moving on. After that, I did read 3 more collections by Junji Ito, and if you're new here, I have a love-hate relationship with Junji Ito. If you do not know who Junji Ito is, he is a manga writer. He tends to lean more into like the horror element. So I read Moan, Tombs, and then Stitches. So we'll talk about Stitches first. Stitches is a combination. It's art by Junji Ito and then story by Hirokatsu Kihara. And this has short stories. They're short stories. It's not like one giant story, which honestly, the cover for this is actually pretty cool. That's the cover in its full glory. But this was actually the worst out of the 4 that I read. I was hoping going into this with the short stories being written by a different author and Junji providing the art that the stories at least would be very interesting. The stories were they were terrible. They were absolutely terrible. They're non-memorable, but they just weren't good. And like they're written as like an actual story, like a novel and everything. Like the very first one, it makes no sense, and it just like abruptly ends. Like a lot of short stories in here, they just abruptly end. And sometimes I wonder if maybe there's a translation issue, and that's why some of these just aren't hitting the way that you would want them to hit. But the art, as usual, really, really good. The stories, though, just absolutely terrible. None of them really gave that like horror paranormal side or whatever. A couple of them like kind of like touched on it a little bit. But other than that, they were all very lackluster. They were kind of boring. They just abruptly ended. There's, little to no like explanation or even like vague idea to tell you like what they're meaning in it. So I was very, very disappointed with this, even though I had really hoped it would be good. And then Moan is just strictly Junji. It's just his stuff and everything. It was all right. It's definitely probably one of the slightly better collections that he has, but again, nothing really stands out. Like I can't really think of any that in here that like make me go, oh yeah, I remember that one. And the same kind of goes for Tombs. Definitely a better collection than some of the other ones I've read. Has slightly more entertaining stories in them. But ultimately, like, I definitely feel like his stories tend to be more paranormal than they are horror. Especially with a lot of these newer, like, short story collections that he has been putting out. They kind of touch on the paranormal. Like, there's something weird going on in this town. There's something a little odd happening. There's these weird little things happening. Like, you never really fully get to, like, explore into the worlds that he's creating and the things that he's doing. And some of them, they end fine, where you're just kind of like, oh, that was weird. And then others are kind of like, can I get an explanation? Because it's so weird and strange that, like, you want that explanation. And the way that the story ends up leading towards, it's like you think you're going to get that explanation and then you don't. So it tends to be a lot of a letdown and everything. I do still think that, like, the art, though, like I said, I have a love-hate relationship with this guy's stuff. And I feel like a lot of his stories have, like, his short stories have, like, the basis of being something really interesting long-term. Like, if it was turned into, like, a full-length story. But, like, because, like, that's creepy. It's creepy. But, like, none of the stories ever really give me, like, that, oh my god, this is so scary. It's definitely just more like these are weird. They're kind of paranormal-y. So I find it interesting that we always attach the word horror to his books, but I get why, because it's a broad genre. So they were all right. Definitely not the worst ones. I mean, besides Stitches, that was just bad. So I'm still obviously gonna keep reading more of his stuff because I enjoy his art. But definitely better collections than I've read from him in the past. To this day, my favorite by him is still Uzumaki, which is the spiral one. That one is still my favorite. That's the one that I think that he has done the best of. So those are the ones that I finished. There are other books that I finished, but that's actually for a project that I'm working on. So we're not going to talk about those because in April, I had a really big boom of a certain genre that I started reading. Ultimately, I read over, I think it's 28 books in April. And a lot of them go specifically to that particular genre. So there is a video for that coming. So we will talk more about those later. So these are just the other things that I read outside of that. And right now I'm currently in the middle of 2 other books. I started A Place Near the Wind by Ai Zhang. It's fine so far. The thing I'm having an issue with is names, and it's making it just a little difficult. And that's just because it's, based off of, I think it's Chinese culture that I believe it's based off of. And I don't know how to pronounce these names correctly, and there's a lot of them, especially here in the beginning. And I do have the audiobook put on hold. That way I can visually, not visually, I don't visually see with my ears, so that I can hear how these things are supposed to be pronounced, and hopefully that will make it just a little bit easier to understand the story, because it does kind of throw me off a little bit. But I'm not making that's not a bad thing. That's just because it's a cultural thing. I don't know how these letters are properly pronounced, and there is at one point the main character, her name and their town name, if I'm understanding correctly, are spelled the same way, but they're pronounced differently because they mean different things. And so it makes it a little bit difficult reading it, because I have to differentiate between the two, if that makes sense. It's just, yeah, it's a me thing. It's definitely not, it's not the book thing. It's not an author thing. It's a me thing, because I don't understand the culture. And so I would like the audiobook to go along with it so that I can understand those elements of the story better. And then I am also in the middle of reading The Society of Unknowable Objects by Gareth Brown. I am enjoying this one so far. I've made it to part 2. Because it's split into 4 parts, I believe, if I look, because once I saw there was parts, whenever I see a book has parts, I like to look through it and see how many parts it has in general, so I can see how it's broken down, because sometimes I'll read a whole part in one setting and everything. So this one, I believe, if I remember correctly, it has 4 parts to it, but so far it is pretty interesting. There was a lot of setup in the beginning. It has the same very readable writing style that Brown has that I enjoy. We have another female main character. I like her so far. I don't have any issues with her. And I am very interested to see what's going on with the person who runs the Society of Unknowable Objects, because it has already been hinted at that he might not be trustable. And I'm just kind of ooh, what do you mean? So there's definitely some elements going on in here that I'm very intrigued by. So definitely liking it. And as you guys know, I was a big fan of the Book of Doors. So we'll see if I end up liking this one just as much. So that is what's going on in my reading life right now. Yeah, that is everything. Mostly everything, since there is some stuff that I held back for a project. So when that one comes out, hopefully you guys will enjoy that one. It's a little off kilter for the channel, but I read everything and anything. That's what we do around here. And I have discovered that with the current direction that fantasy has taken, where it's a lot of lit RPGs, a lot of cozies, and a lot of romances, I just don't have an interest in reading fantasy right now, because nobody is talking about regular fantasy right now. And and what makes it a little bit difficult is the fact that my entire collection is basically fantasy, because that's my true love and everything. But because nobody is talking about just your regular run-of-the-mill fantasy, it's these other genres that have taken over. I'm just I don't have an interest in reading them, because nobody cares about hearing about people talk about them. So I've just been exploring other genres and stuff, and plus I like reading other genres. So, but this current genre that I am reading, I am full sail in love with it, you guys. I love it. So yeah, I'm also reading some other things in between as well. I plan to. I haven't started them yet, but I plan to. That way I don't get too burnt out on that one. But yeah, hopefully you guys will enjoy that one when that video comes around. So that is everything. What did you guys read? I would love to know. Tell me down in the comments, what was your favorite book that you read in April? And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye.